who have joined this call today and all the ones who are going to listen to it on YouTube at a later point. So today is our 15th session. We have come a long way, slow and steady progress we are making with the book, almost on the dot with the with respect to the plan that we had made. So we are at the chapter number 4, and Shubha Didi is doing the second part of the reading of this. So we had talked about this. This chapter is about the human purpose, right? And if we look at it, the two words purpose and meaning are very closely related. So if we see what is the meaning of the word meaning, right? So meaning is how an entity actually fits into the overall scheme of things. Okay. So like, for example, when we are actually explaining that what is the meaning of uh, this uh, uh, tree, and we say that, okay, tree is actually fulfilling this role into this larger scheme of things. It is right. So that is the meaning that we say. And what is the purpose? Purpose is that in this, everybody is fulfilling their meaning, and to reach their meaning is the purpose, right? So which basically is defines the directionality of every entity, right? So we see that that is how basically we are looking at human purpose. And so then we also explored the ideas like, is there such a thing called universal human purpose, right? Or each one of us have uh, a separate purpose. So we basically said that this, because there is a universal orderliness is there, that universal definition of human being. So there can be a universal human purpose. And then we also explored on the idea that is the human purpose at variance with the purpose of all other entities, right? We see that the human purpose is actually aligned with all other entities that are there in existence. So so these are some of the ideas that we have been exploring. So I will now invite Shubha Didi to actually lead us through the rest of the session. And after Shubha Didi completes her section, we will have Kuhu uh, taking this session further in on chapter 4. So welcome, Shubha Didi.
Thank you, Bhaiya. Thank you very much. I'll start from this point where we left. That we were discussing about the sentient and insentient entities and also the constitution of them. So the anubhuti that I'm going to read is, upon attaining such special activeness, the sentient entity, that is Jivan, becomes associated with the bondage of hope. As evidence, every animal has the hope of living. So Babaji is describing here that upon constitutional, once this constitution is complete for an atom, this is the state that where it will be called Jivan, and it is called Jivan, which is continuous, and then it doesn't interact like any physical or chemical thing. It doesn't have any kind of reactions or that kind of physical or chemical attractions with other insentient atoms, but it has something that is called, it has some additional property associated to it, that is hope. And hope is to fulfill some kind of say desire, want, where this in animals it is seen as the hope of living, and further we will see that in human consciousness or in human body, it will be for happiness, it is for happiness. The principle of constitution is common in sentient and insentient units. So further, particles within each atom are either positioned in the nucleus or the surrounding orbits. The first orbit contains one or more particles continuously revolving around the nucleus, and the same holds true for the second, third, fourth orbit, and so on. Space exists all around each atom and around all particles in an atom's constitution. There is no place or thing that is without or devoid of space. So here Babaji is telling one of the very important thing is that constitutionally all the sentient and insentient units are same. They are made of the same particle. There is space in all of them. So structurally they are similar in a way that their composition is same. But the constitution, the structure makes the difference. How they are arranged, this arrangement of the particles in the space and the arrangement of particles in context to each other, with reference to each other, makes the difference. So the arrangement is like that. There is one particle or few particles in the center, which is called nucleus. And then there are surrounding particles in the orbits. We call this particles like electron, proton, neutron in present day science. So then he is defining that orbits, like most of us who are from science background, or even we know this till class 10th, that the atoms have nucleus, then there are orbits which have 2, 8, 18, 32 particles in the orbits. So here also Babaji is explaining that there is a nucleus, and then there comes, in this nucleus he is explaining this as the first orbit, and this then there is a second, third, fourth orbit, and so on. So the number of orbits depend on the number of particles that are there in these. The important thing that he is explaining here is that there is a space that is existing in between these, and there is a space around the particles also. So here he is trying to explain the value of the space, that it holds the particles together. It holds in the way that it helps the particle to be held together. It's not doing anything, but it is kind of providing a platform or something like that, that these particles are arranged, they are stable in a system. The nucleus of the sentient unit, a constitutionally complete atom, is referred to as Atma. The particle in its first orbit are referred to as Buddhi. Those in the second orbit are referred to as Chit. Those in the third orbit are referred to as Vritti, and those in the fourth orbit are referred to as Man. So he's describing the sentient unit. As we know, all the orbits in case of a physical atom or all the elements that we have seen till today. The first orbit is Atma, where there is one particle. And then the second orbit is called Buddhi. So we have read about this in the constitution of Jivan Parmanu. The third is Chit, and the third is Vritti. Center is Atma, first is Buddhi, second is Chit, third is Vritti, and fourth is Man. Man is the orbit which is closest to our body. These are named as Man, Vritti, Chit, Buddhi in case of sentient entity only, or they are not named similarly in other atoms, but they are present in those also. Nature on this earth is evident as four orders. The nucleus of atoms in all four orders is the mediative activity, because it is not affected by generative or degenerative forces. So as we can compare the atoms which are there in the physical chemical state, or the atoms which are there in the sentient entity, that the center part of this, that is the nucleus of this atom, is very important because of its positioning, where it acts as a mediative activity. It is not affected by anything, any force which is from outside. In fact, it is the one which is trying to counteract or is trying to balance those. So it is not reduced, it is not there is no increase or a decrease in number of this. So we see this in animal, in plant. So in any atom, which is an insentient atom, we see that there is an exchange of particles in the outer orbitals, whereas the particles in the nucleus remains the same. Very rarely it occurs, and if it occurs, it's a very high energy exchanging exercise, like kind of nuclear fission or fusion, where the particles in the nucleus are disturbed. So which is not very common. So even in the insentient entities, it is seen that the nucleus is very stable. So it's there in the both sentient as well as insentient, and all the four orders are made up of this. So the manifestation of nature is by various kinds of interactions of these atoms. There can be physical interaction, there can be chemical interaction, there can be biological interaction, and every kind of interaction will add up some property into this. So when we say material order, it will be manifesting only the physical properties and the attraction and other things, and then some of the chemical properties of the chemical reactions and composition, and then compounds and then mixtures. But when it comes to the living system, that is the pranic order, then it becomes a little more active. So we will be seeing all this in the coming sections. What important thing is that effort, motion, and result continues to occur within evolving constitution atoms. Even upon attaining immortality, there is no lack of effort in the activity of Jivan, that is the sentient unit, until it has developed the potential, ability, receptivity for restfulness. So here I think that we have some idea about how the development progression works, how these atoms have evolved. So there has been effort, motion, and the result is a constitution. So when one or two particles come together, they make a particular kind of constitution. That is one result that is stable for a period, and then the next constitution evolves. So these are evolving continuously to the next stage till they attain, till there is no further change in the constitution. So that is how it qualifies for completeness. Completeness is something when there is no further change in the structure. So they keep on changing uh, right from an atom or of an entity of two particles at least to the 120 particles in total. So when there is this evolution is there is one entity that attains the structural, when there is no change in structure, it becomes complete, where it becomes immortal. That means there is no change in its structure, it becomes very stable, and any force, physical force, cannot break that constitution, cannot so it will remain like that forever. So that is kind of immortality even after that. So before this, the effort, motion, and result is in the direction of change in the constitution and attaining the completeness in constitution. After this immortality, or after this forever stability of that particle, that is called jivan, which now becomes sentient because it will now acquire another uh, quality, which is thought, which is hope. So from this point also, there will be effort, there will be motion, and then there will be result. But this will not be in structure, but it will be change in the ability, change in receptivity and potential for restfulness. So that these sentient entities will attain a completeness only uh, when they are in a particular orderliness, and this orderliness is in reference to their potential to grasp, their potential to realize, their ability and receptivity, ability to express and receptivity for the information and the existence. So the sequence of events in deploying Jivan energies for the development, that is awakening, is as follows: curiosity in man, enthusiasm in vritti, rejoicing in chit, elation and in inundation in buddhi, and finally realization in atma. Inward regulation of Jivan energies is necessary for this. So there are 4 orbits, and there are 4 different qualities in each of this orbit that is expressed, that is observed by Babaji. And we can validate this in our conduct, in our behavior also. So the man, which is the outermost orbit, is having curiosity. And then enthusiasm is there in vritti. Chit rejoices, elation and inundation is there in buddhi. And finally, realization is there in atma. We will be seeing this, how it happens with each of the word explained in the coming paragraphs. But the important thing is that inward regulation of jivan energies is necessary for this. So this is important because we live mostly outward, and we most of our energy is wasted when we live for body, or we consider ourselves as an similar to that of an insentient entity. So inward regulation of jivan. Somebody is saying something there. Inward ji
Please go ahead.
ji So inward regulation of jivan energies here means that we need to focus on ourselves, on our activity, on human activity. Our, that doesn't mean an individual, but how the human activity, human entity works. What are the need and requirements of a human entity? How jivan performs, how jivan is different than the other insentient atoms, and then what I need to satisfy all these curiosity in man, and what I need to have enthusiasm in vritti. So on. So inward regulation of jivan energies in form of our hope, desire, deliberation. We need to work on these things. So realization or anubhuti is the understanding obtained from natural progression of state, motion, emergence, and results itself is realization. So here realization is expressed as the result that we get after understanding something. So how we understand something, we understand the state of any object. We understand our own state, we understand the state of the whole universe, and then we understand how this power is actually expressing, it is working, and it is giving us some direction, which is motion, and how we express this, and then how what kind of consequence is there after this. So if we understand all these things, where we are going, and what will be the result, how it will emerge, after understanding all this, we get something that is called realization. But it will be qualified as realization if it is in accordance to the existence. If we are doing anything which is not in accordance to a existence, that is not lawful, then probably there will be no realization. Upon realization, there is something that is called inundation or aplavan. The effect of absence of delusion is referred to as inundation. Buddhi becomes inundated upon attaining absence of delusion. So what is delusion? When we see what is not there and we try to get some other meaning, as Bhaiya was explaining, meaning and purpose. So we do not get the right meaning of any object, we do not get the right meaning of any activity, and we impose some other meaning to it. We impose something else, then it is called delusion. So till there is no understanding, we are deluded. So we can call it right now, from our perspective where we are learning, that we are deluded because we don't have the right understanding of the facts of the existence. And this delusion will be gone, this will be eliminated once we have realized. So I sometimes find it cyclic, but the important thing is that we need to work on where we are deluded, and then slowly we will learn. How Babaji got it is that he realized, he understood, and his Probably he had very less delusion, but then all his delusions were gone and he was awakened. Rejoicing, ahlad, is absence of the lacking itself is rejoicing. Rejoicing occurs in chit upon intuition of absence of the lacking. So, what we lack is important here, and what is absence of lacking. So we live with I can say that we are born with curiosity, and when that curiosity is not satisfied, we don't get the answer. There is something, we get the feeling that there is something lacking. There is something that I don't know. There is something. There are something that we are not able to grasp and do. So that gives us a feeling of dissatisfaction, a feeling of incompleteness. So this will be gone only when we have the information. So what is lacking is the right information. What is lacking is trust in ourselves. What is lacking is resolution. What is lacking is understanding of the existence and my placement in it. So when I understand all these things, then I get what is. So this lacking was, I was not having the information of what is. So I feel dissatisfied. This dissatisfaction gives rise to several kinds of conflicts and struggles, contradictions in me, and which actually leads to a kind of feeling of lacking. So here the desire and needs are not aligned. Needs are not well defined also in human perspective, and we feel that we always want something. We always are running after something. So we are not having that feeling of rejoice. The next is enthusiasm or utsaha, the courage towards upliftment or development, that is awakening, is referred to as enthusiasm, and it occurs in vritti. Right? So here the one word that is important is courage. Why courage is required? Because we want to grow beyond our limitations of body. We want to learn something that is justice. We want to learn about the other entities, how they work in the nature, that is dharma, and our also swadharma. And then we want to develop from our stage. For this, we need to put some thoughts. We need to work hard on our thoughts, and we need also to work hard to see where our desire are coming from, are from generated, where we are getting agitated. So all these, when we have this courage, then we try to learn. And then once we have this, we have learned it, or we have seen our own shortcomings or our own limitations, and we learn to grow beyond that, then we feel enthusiastic. This is how I see, and this is a repetitive process. Every time we learn something new, we will be enthusiastic for the next level. So with courage, motivation is also required here. This occurs in vritti, with deliberation of what we want, and our want are for the temporal satisfaction, or they are for the long-lasting satisfaction, so on. What is curiosity? That is kautuhal. Impetus to know the unknown and to achieve the unachieved is curiosity, which occurs in man. This is again a very special line. We have connected man with very small things also, which is a requirement of what I like to eat, what I like to wear, what I like to do, what I like to feel like. So it's just a simple feeling like, to knowing the unknown. So the curiosity purely is on to know something. So we are born with this curiosity. Every child is born with this curiosity. We want to know what is there in any system. So, and then by knowing this, we want to achieve certain targets that gives us fulfillment. So this occurs in man. So the next anubhuti is the particles only in the last orbit of all types of atoms within the material order are active. through effort or involved in ascending activity. Here Babaji is explaining that the particles in material order, where there is only the last orbit or is active. So here there is physical interaction between the particles which are in the last orbit, and they are involved in some kind of chemical reactions or some kind of physical associations, right? And in this way, they are involved into uh, creating something different. Like there is, as I said, compound, solution, mixture, water, acid, some other kinds of fluid that is important. So all this evolution is here. So every particle, basic thing is every particle here is having the tendency to ascend, tendency to a direction towards development. Frustration or kshob. The shortcoming in converting potential and ability into effort is referred to as frustration. This signifies incompleteness of receptivity. Now, here what he is describing is that there is a tendency for the next stage, but there is lack of ability in converting it, and there is lack of effort towards that. That leads to frustration, that leads to show, and it is again, as it is it is incompleteness in the receptivity. So whenever the next stage is not reached, there is some difference in what that entity is tending to be and what is its own receptivity. I see this more in terms of sentient entity. Ascending or aggression is the balance and receptivity gained while converting potential and ability into effort is referred to as ascending. So, as it is explained in the previous point, if there is a proper receptivity of the signals, if there is what we can say, the particle is able to recognize and then is able to fulfill the reaction or the kind of action, that is activity that is required in that particular point. It attains a particular stage, it goes to the next stage, and there is a balance in this. The next stage comes with a balance. It becomes stable. It becomes more ordered than the previous stage. The energy is so utilized that it becomes more ordered as compared to the previous stage. So the effort, the effort which is done in this direction is seen as ascending. Only the particles in the outermost and second to last orbits of insentient atoms are actively engaged in compounding activities through effort, advancing towards the higher status of the biological order. When I read this line for the first time, I thought that Nagaraj ji is a good scientist, very good scientist, because he is explaining something at the core of the chemistry and biology also. So the particles which are in the outermost orbit are mostly active in the physical activities, but when there is some kind of chemical or biochemical reactions, when larger molecules are made, then their inner orbitals, that is second to last orbit, is also activated. And this leads to the activity, the result is into something which is different than the previous, which is not only physical, which will create something else, which will lead to some bigger result of it is like, for example, we can say that glucose, or we can say water, or we can say any kind of mixture that we see, like the body fluid, blood, that kind of activity, that kind of state is seen. And with each of this ascending order, we will see that a new quality is added to the atom, right? So if we see that the physical atom will have only attraction, repulsion, electric properties, magnetic properties, but when it comes to chemical and biochemical reaction, then they are also able to catch the small signals as small as in the milliamperes. Like our nerve tissues, neurons can catch very small signals of the milliamperes, -20 to -80 milliamperes, -80 to -120 milliamperes, like that, or even a very small change in the salt concentration. So they become more active in this way, and this is how they create a new order of a cell, a biological cell, and either a plant cell or animal cell. So this is how they get something. Only the physical and chemical interactions will lead to something which starts exchanging gases. That is a cell which starts exchanging water and other fluids. The bodies in the animal order are composed of the biological cells only, and the Jivan there has a tendency for species conformance. Particle in the fourth, third, and second orbits in the sentient atom, that is in animal order, are partially active and engaged in ascending for more evolved expression. Here it's very important that all the biological order till animal bodies of the animal order are similar to that of plants. They are their way of functioning, mode of function, basic principles are similar to that of the cells which are there in the plant, but here they have something different, that is called Jivan, which gives them some signals, and this Jivan work in accordance to the body in which it is, or we can say that uh, Jivan defines the role and functioning of that particular animal body, that particular species, right? So the animals are having another level of another stage of development, is where the animals have evolved, where these cells are so good, as I said, neurons, or as I said, the cells of other systems that can catch the signals of Jivan. They have got this quality, and then they catch this signal, and their cells become aligned to the tendency of Jivan, where different species are evolved. So in this particular system, the particles in the fourth, third, and second orbits are also activated. So our body is also having the particles that are activated in the second orbit, that is Chit. But these are not completely engaged or completely active, they are partially active. So they have more evolved expressions. By evolved expression here he means is thinking, imagination, working, learning, training, some kind of receiving the noise, voices, that kind of expression. In human, it will be learning. The bodies of the knowledge order are also composed of biological cells. During the awakening progression stage, Jivan expresses its four and a half activities with activeness in the fourth, third, and second orbits through the body-based way. So we are all well aware of this four and a half activity, which is a kind of big limitation to us. Our bodies are also made up of the similar biological cells of that of any other animal we can imagine, and but we have a better nervous system. During the awakening progression stage, our Jivan has learned, because our body is so developed, most developed among all the animals, so we can so the sentient entity in us, that is called Jivan, is able to express maximum at the maximum level. So here still the activities are not completely not complete here, because we have attained the four and a half activities which is based on our body, and the fourth, third, and second orbits are active. Here also you can say that we are only till the second orbit, because it is body based. We have to go beyond this. Upon awakening, Jivan evidences all 10 of its activity through the realization based method. The human body is capable of evidencing all 10 activities of Jivan in human tradition. So till animal or till this stage, that is unawakened human, right? we have got this beautiful body which has the ability to express all the activities of the Jivan. But what we have got is due to evolution, is due to natural progression. But now we have to do our own effort, that is towards awakening, where Jivan will be able to realize the truth. And then with this method only, activity completeness will be achieved. And we can have this in human tradition. This is the last Anubhuti I'm going to read. No, one more page. Okay. So the goal of pursuing the ideal in the knowledge order is to achieve oneness, consonance, connectedness, and observance of the ideal. This is accomplished in proportion to the seeker's potential, ability, and receptivity towards the name, form, attributes, and intrinsic nature of the ideal. As Babaji has been explaining the natural progression and ascending order, he is trying to show that there is some what we can say qualitative in improvement in the orders, in all the orders. So once we have this body and Jivan, we have the tendency to idealize. I am placing this as how I get to idealize with anything which we find more powerful, which we find more influential. So this is how humans have evolved. So we try to idealize, we try to follow, we try to be like the person or the thing which we have seen as which is more powerful, or which we find more influential in any way. But how we can get awakening is that if we know what to idealize, what is our ideal. So the goal of pursuing the ideal in the knowledge order is to achieve oneness, consonance, and connectedness, and observance of the ideal. So ideal here is not anything or any person, but this is awakening. So we have to be one, we have to understand what it is, then we have to understand the we have to be in proper alignment. Consonance means we have all our orbitals are to be active and to work in an order, so that there is no struggle, there is no agitation. We have to feel that connectedness in and out, and then we should be able to see the thing in clarity. We should see, we should be able to see and perceive all the attributes, all the qualities that are associated with any entity. So this is possible only if we understand our own intrinsic nature, and this will be possible only after awakening. So our ideal East is, he's further describing this, the ideal is the self-driven reverence, trust, and dedication towards coexistence, along with the complete knowledge. So this will be if we understand coexistence, and this should be self-driven. Like, it should not be due to in we want anything, we want any achievement out of it, we want any kind of power or superpower out of it, but it should be purely out of curiosity, trust, and then reverence will come when once we understand that, and then we will be dedicated. So that kind of ideal is there, and this will be achieved only with complete knowledge. Oneness or consonance, that is tadatmya or tadrup. As awakening is the ultimate accomplishment, consonance and oneness with enlightenment is natural for Jivan and realization. Realization in coexistence itself is the way of consonance and resonance, that is tadakar, because law, regulation, balance, justice, dharma, and truth become evident as a result of realization. So, because when we say that we will understand coexistence, that means we will be awakened. When we say that we are awakened, then it itself is an accomplishment, it itself is a state, right? So the result of that state will be our activities, which will be seen as we will be resonating the whole coexistence. We will not be kind of any conflict with the existence, like we can see right now the human beings are. So we will be, the consonance is a combination of all the musical notes, right? So there will be a kind of beautiful music. There will be a beautiful balance. We will also be in a perfect balance with the whole existence. Right now we see human and nature, but then we will see ourselves as part of nature. So here the law, regulation, and balance, this is more related to the um, orders which are other than human, and justice, dharma, and truth are more related to the human order or the awakened human order, where these will be outcome of, once we realize this, then we will be able to discover all the law, we will be able to follow all the laws, we will be self-regulated, more regulated and balanced in our conduct, which is in turn seen as justice in our relationship. Dharma, that means how we deal with nature, how we produce, how we interact in society, how we interact with other human in the world, and truth is the ultimate reality that we can see, right? So the next thing is connectedness or tat sanidhya. It means abiding in happiness, peace, contentment, and bliss. So if there is no struggle, if there is say no conflict, right? If there is kind of that we are one with the nature, we are one, we are balanced with the whole nature, with other orders in the nature, then what is the issue? So there will be this will also mean that we will have our desire more regulated, that will be more in accordance to what we actually need than what we feel that we need, that is imposed on us. So that will be more of our own thing. That means that our man, vritti, chit, buddhi will be sharing the realization that has happened in the atma, right? And it will be sharing that state. It will, that will be reflected as bliss. Our man will be stable because we will know what are our real goals, what is our purpose, what is the value, and it will be able to express those values, it will be able to receive those values, those emotions from other, so they will be aligned. Since the vritti will be having the perspective of truth, it will be having the perspective of justice and dharma, there will be no agitation, and there will be no what we can say struggle in our own existence. It will be seen as peace in our living. It will be the outcome will be peace. Our chit will be clear, and we will have a realistic picture of world. We will be more fearless. Most of our fear will be gone. I think all of our fear will be gone in if we are awakened, and we will be more satisfied in that way. So with all this, there will be no delusion in the buddhi, like there will be complete trust. I can just imagine this beautiful state when where I am not having any kind of fear, I am fearless, I am completely satisfied, I have trust in everyone and in me also, I am quite resolved. So and then I know that I'm not going to die, I know that I'm eternal. So that is something that is called bliss, that is contentment in chit. So it will be beautiful. This is only how I can describe it. So this will be happiness in complete sense. Observance or tadavalokan. Observance refers to being established in the perceiver status in coexistence. Only an awakened jivan is the perceiver of the coexistence. So again, here Babaji is putting something very important, that perceiving the whole existence as it is in form, in its own form, with all the laws, its balance, its orderliness. That is observance. That is how we can see it. So this is possible only with awakening. Awakening is an indicated by the word tat. So every time we say that we want to exist that thing, so that thing is, or that particular word is tat. We have to be aligned in accordance, connected to this awakening, to the existence, coexistence. The goal of all activities of the knowledge order units is to achieve seedless, that is nirbijan behavior, which means liberation from delusion with awakening as its evidence. This itself is conduct completeness. So, what is nirbijan, or what is sabijan, that is seedfulness or seedless, is that our desire are from still from our body, bounded to our body. Our desire are still to attach to the things that are mortal, or that are going to change forms. Then it is called seedful. I will read the next one, and then the seedful, that is sabijan, refers to the belief that the body is Jivan, while in reality the body is a composition of physical chemical matter. Jivan is a constitutionally complete atom, a sentient unit which is perceiver of the physico-chemical world. So yes, we are eternal, we are immortal, and we attach ourselves to something that is changing forms, that is not permanent, that is not stable beyond a period of time. So, and this kind of attachment leads to some kind of pain, some kind of uh, unusual attraction and delusion, in fact. So this means sabijan or seedful. So when we consider ourselves as body, and we don't see how good we are as Jivan, we cannot see right now. So this is reflected in our behavior. So our behavior will be more bound to the physical chemical matter around us, the physical chemical world around us, then it is seedful. If our behavior and conduct is more bound to the eternal and immortal things, like relations, like the other jivans, and we can see them as that, then it will be nirbijan. So this is possible only when we have conduct completeness. That means we are awakened, realize, that means all our orbits are now active, like man, vritti, chit. So there are 4.5 activities that are alive or active right now, but we need to work for the rest of 5.5. And once they are all active, then it will be conduct. Then it will be activity completeness. And when we will be able to express this understanding, then it will be conduct completeness. So I will also wait for this stage in my life. Thank you, Bhaiya. I think I'll be explaining till this point.
Thank you, Shubha Didi. This was very nicely done. And need putting a lot of hard work into preparing for this out of your regular schedule of your college also. So once again, thank you so much for
Thank you.
taking this effort. So I will now invite Kuhu. Kuhu is from Nagpur, and she
Ji
had
Bhaiya.
actually earlier participated in the um, Jeevan Vidya Ek Parichay reading also. So I had shared the Kuhu's very nice introduction about her initiative at Nagpur for setting up a place of learning as well as doing. So welcome, Kuhu.
Yeah, thank you, Bhaiya. Uh, okay, so I guess I'll continue reading. I'm just going to turn on my video because yeah, I would like all of you to sort of see me. And if I can actually request if you can also turn on your videos, then maybe I can feel like I'm not just talking to black boxes.
That's yes, indeed. So you are very much there, and thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Bhaiya, for the opportunity. And yeah, I think we have time till 9:30, so I'll try to cover as much as I can. And maybe the rest of it I can do in the next session on Tuesday.
Yes, that would be fine. Yeah.
Okay, so I'll read from the next Anubhuti after Shubha Didi just finished. So, seedless behavior happens in the state of liberation from delusion. Seedless behavior comprises the state of liberation from inhumaneness, the nurturing of humaneness, and the evidence of higher humaneness. The complete acceptance and realization of morality of the body, immorality and continuity of the Jivan, and the laws of work and behavior constitute the seedless thought and behavior. Accordingly, is the seedless behavior. This itself is the liberation from delusion. So what Babaji is saying here is basically, first of all, seedless behavior refers to the actions that are not driven by delusion or ignorance. And delusion, like discussed before, is basically misunderstanding the reality, not seeing things the way they are, especially in terms of not understanding Jivan, not understanding the nature of existence, and existence in general. So seedless behavior is basically um, when you're uh, uh, oh, sorry. This is, I'm talking about, seedless only, correct. Sorry. So this means that you're not delusional, you're seeing things as it is. And liberation from delusion means that you're understanding the world in the way that you're supposed to, in its natural self, which leads to actions that are in harmony with this understanding. So so the state of liberation is basically achieved when someone is not seeing the world in a delusional way, but in the way that they're supposed to. So now he talks about the liberation from inhumaneness. So liberation from inhumaneness basically means overcoming behaviors that are driven by animal instincts or cruelty, or like satisfaction from your senses. So the most basic level of operating driven by animal instincts is inhumaneness. And nurturing of humaneness is involves developing values and virtues like compassion and kindness and justice. And higher humaneness is basically the qualities that are shown by an enlightened human being, which involves knowing the truth and living in coexistence. So what he's saying here is seedless behavior thus embodies what a transition from a base animal behavior to humaneness, to higher humaneness or divine behavior would be like. And then he further goes on to say that while he's talking about the morality of the body, so this is basically accepting that the body is temporary. It's a physiochemical matter, so it's temporary. Immorality of the jivan, of course, means that the jivan is continuous. It never dies. It's eternal. And then the laws of work and behavior that he's referring to are the natural laws, the fundamental laws that basically govern ethical behavior and ethical actions. So seedless thought basically arises when you have an understanding and acceptance of this, which leads to seedless behavior. And this is, of course, free from delusion. So, moving further, seedless thought itself is the natural thought. Uh, Seedless thought itself is the natural thought process of a liberated Jivan, or Jivan Mukt, or a divine human. A liberated Jivan, or a Jivan Mukt, that is one who has transcended animal consciousness and delusion and achieved realization in coexistence, does not suffer from the recollection of the past or apprehension about the future, and has no dissension with the present. Awakening or liberation from delusion itself is the mediative state and mediative state and motion. Attaining the mediative state entails liberation from the frustration of generative and degenerative activities. Jivan attains contentment upon awakening by ways of utilization, righteous utilization, purposefulness, and complementariness. In an awakened Jivan, there is contentment and balance only through a mediative way, that is, through the enlightenment of Atma or realization. So basically, the Jivan Mukt being or a liberated Jivan is a being who has attained enlightenment and is free from delusion. Then he talks about a divine human, which is someone again who embodies the divine qualities or the enlightened qualities that we have. And the seedless thought is for them, for this liberated Jivan, for this divine human, a seedless thought is their natural way of thinking. That is how they perceive reality without delusion and without um, uh, 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 and basically like in the right way, in the truthful way. So then when he says that a liberated Jivan is one who has transcended animal consciousness and delusion, he basically means that you're moving beyond your basic instincts and primal behaviors, which then leads to a realization in coexistence, which of course means living in harmony. And this basically removes the burdens of thinking about the past or thinking about the future, and fully living in the present and seeing reality the way it is, and living in the way that you're supposed to, the way you perceive and have perceived and accepted reality as it is. So basically, there are no internal conflicts or no delusion when it comes to these beings. So when he talks about the mediative state, right, he's talking about how there is a balance when it comes to the harmony that is present. And when we talk about generative or degenerative activities, that basically means that generative activities are more towards aimed towards creating or accumulating, whereas degenerative activities are more about destruction or decline. And liberation from this is what it means to find a balance, that mediative state. And that is where the contentment comes from. That is where you see proper utilization of things and righteous actions. And this, of course, is attained through enlightenment, because there is that balance. So, yeah, awake. So, in awakening progression, humans believe enhancement in physical appearance, might, societal status, and wealth as generative, sustainment as mediative, and decrease as degenerative. Therefore, in awakening progression due to delusion, generative and mediative activities are acceptable to all, while degenerative activity remains unacceptable, which is the reason for their affliction. In a in the awakened human tradition, the grandeur and importance of Jivan become primary and the material aspect becomes secondary. Thereby, the generative, degenerative, and mediative activities of the material aspect become regulated. So I think we can all notice this in ourselves also, that when we're uh, trying to uh, progress in our career, for example, or trying to get more things, more materialistic things, and we succeed in that, we see that as progress for us, we see that as an improvement for us, and we assume that these are generative activities, in this sense that we're improving our physical status, our societal status. And as long as we're sustaining that, as long as we're maintaining that, we still see that as improvements. We see that as a good thing. So all our lives we're basically working towards building these things and trying to maintain them. But if these are not maintained, if these are not achieved, then the decline of these activities or the loss of these activities is what we assume to be degenerative activities. Whereas in reality, that is what Babaji is saying, that this is delusional of us to think that this is what we mean by generative sustainment and degenerative. What generative sustainment and degenerative actually is it'll come further, um, but because we don't understand that, we become sad, we suffer, and all of these things. So, in an awakened state, in an enlightened human being, this importance of sustainment, of moving towards generative activities is shifted to the jivan instead of achieving them through material activities or material aspects, and that is what leads uh, to the fulfillment and to basically understanding how things actually are. So basically, the primary focus is on focusing on a balanced life, a balanced idea for the jivan instead of the materialistic activities. So frustration itself is unhappiness or affliction. The need for evidence of awakening in living is only for the eradication of frustration, problems, and unhappiness. So it's quite simple that he says that frustration arises when there is not a match between what we're expecting, what we're thinking, and the reality of how things actually are or what is happening with us, right? So when there's not a match, we're frustrated, we're sad by it. And this mismatch is what leads to unhappiness. And this is what leads to dissatisfaction as well. So the purpose of demonstrating or experiencing awakening is basically to eliminate all these problems, to eliminate sadness entirely, to eliminate unhappiness. And it is when we achieve awakening, it is when we achieve enlightenment, is when our expectations and the reality aligns, it matches, which of course then leads to us being happy because the outcome is what we had expected. And uh, yeah. Life spans the stages of creation, sustainment, and dissolution. The sustainment stage is the most pleasant among them, but it is not permanent. Due to delusion, humans try to achieve permanence in their physical appearance, might, societal status, and wealth of the sustainment stage only, which ultimately proves unsuccessful because that is not its permanent attribute. Therefore, there is no stability in the sustainment stage of the body, and the accomplishments made during this stage. The sustainment of humans is the awakened tradition only. So basically, here I think what I understand is that life is a cycle that includes creation, it includes sustainment, which is maintenance, and dissolution or decline or death. So the sustainment stage for us as humans is enjoyable because it provides us with stability. It gives us the fruits for our efforts that we've put. But the thing with that is that it's temporary, it's not permanent. Delusion is what leads people to believe that they can achieve permanence in these things. They can achieve permanence in physical appearance, in strength, in societal status, and all of that. However, because these aspects are not permanent, this is where the frustrations come in. Um, and we feel sad. So true sustainment, like he says, is actually, it comes from adopting that awakened tradition, which focuses on inner growth, which focuses on understanding the jivan, which focuses on understanding um, the existence as it is, rather than focusing on the external activities that are clearly not permanent. The structure is referred to as the form, the effect is referred to as the attribute, The state of manifestation is referred to as the element, and the word used to indicate any form, activity, object, and place is referred to as the name. So, form is the physical or the tangible structure of something, of anything. Attribute is the qualities that come from the structure or come from the form. It's a result of what it is. Element, I think, is the state in which something is manifested or the state in which something exists in its true form. And name is, of course, what we use to label or what we used to call this form, activity, object, or place. So, for example, um, if we take the form of a tree, right? So, the form is the structure that it looks like a tree. It has a trunk, it has branches, right? So, that is the form, that is the structure of a tree. Its attributes are the height, maybe the color even, or the type of leaves, because of the way the tree is, because of the way the form and the structure of the leaf is. Depending on that, these attributes, you'll see different attributes in different trees. The element is that the tree is a part of nature, that it's a living organism and it grows on earth. I think that could be the element. Please correct me if I'm wrong. And of course, the name is that we've called it a tree. So I think that that is how I see it. But if I'm wrong, please correct me.
Yeah, I think this is good.
Okay. So the form and attributes are relative and occasional aspects, which means that they're not permanent, they are relative and they are subject to change over time. They are considered occasional aspects because depending on the various environmental conditions or circumstances that there are, these things are impermanent. And then all elements are saturated and active in the absolute. So what this means is that elements in their fundamental nature are completely the way they are, completely the way they're supposed to be, because we saw that element means the state of being or existing in its most fundamental, most natural way, right? So this means that when it is saturated, means duba bhiga gira in the existence, right? So that is how it's functioning, that is how it's active, that is what is driving it to its absolute reality. So moving on, language. I hope this is okay. I'm trying to sort of put out as much as I have understood. But Bhaiya, if you think anything is missing, if the pace is not right, then please feel free to point out.
I'm quite liking it, so please go ahead. It's very
Okay.
nice.
ठीक है. So this this anubhuti has troubled me a lot in Hindi and in English as well, but I will try to break it down and let's see what we get from this. So language has values at its root. Values have essentiality at its root. Essentiality has evaluation at its root. Evaluation has worldview at its root. Worldview has perceiver at its root. Perceiver has potential, ability, and receptivity at its root. Potential, ability, and receptivity has the perception, comprehension, and intuition of truth at its root. Perception, comprehension, and intuition of truth has the language at its root. All of these activities, all of these are activities of the chit which succeed or fail depending on the perceiver's level of awakening. So if we break it down, language has values at its root, which means that language is a medium to express the values that we have. Values have essentiality at their root, which means that um, values are grounded in essentiality with fundamental nature or fundamental purpose or the essence of something. Essentiality has valuation at its root, which means that if something is essential, it requires evaluation to see if it's fundamental, if it's necessary. So that is why it said that essentiality has evaluation at its root. Only when you evaluate something, you will know if it's essential, which means that if it's fundamental um, in its sense. Evaluation has worldview at its root. So evaluation is obviously, if I'm doing the evaluation, then I have a worldview of something. So it is influenced by my worldview. So evaluation has a worldview at its root, meaning that the overall perspective of how I see and perceive things and interpret the world is how I will evaluate it. Worldview has a perceiver at its root, right? So a worldview is formed by someone. Someone in this case is B. So I am the perceiver. I am the individual who sees the world, perceives things as they are, and that is at the root of evaluation. Of a worldview. Perceiver has potential, ability, and receptivity at its root. So, of course, everyone has a different perception of things, everyone has a different worldview on things, and that varies depending on the potential, on the ability, and the receptivity of the perceiver, of the individual, of myself. So, here, potential refers to the qualities or abilities that may be developed. Ability is the skill that we have or the proficiency that we have in doing something, and receptivity basically means the willingness or the readiness to learn or to receive new ideas or information. I also had to like Google and use the dictionary for a lot of words to get the right meaning. So I hope it's still translating in the similar direction. But okay, potential, ability, and receptivity have the perception, comprehension, and intuition of truth at its root. So what that means is, again, potential, ability, and receptivity, it depends on one's capacity for perception, comprehension, and intuition of the truth. So perception is basically like how we perceive things, and I think that comes from our senses, how we perceive things through our five senses. Comprehension is basically how well we are able to, or how we understand or grasp concepts or information. And intuition of truth is uh, the instinctive understanding of the truth. Like there is some instinctiveness within us, some intuition within us, because we are a part of existence, and there is that instinctive understanding of truth of the existence, and that is, I think, what he's calling intuition of truth.
Yeah, I would basically like to add, I think the perception, as you said, is what we get from the senses. We understand things from our senses and we get a sense of things. That's the perception. Comprehension is that once we apply some logic to it, some reasoning, and then we say that, yes, we have comprehended that. In Hindi, we call it abhas, and perception, we call it bhas, that we get a perception of the things. Intuition is when we actually get the understanding of the reality that is beyond the logic, right? Or the logic has been completed, but we are not able to see, have the direct perception of the reality. That is called intuition or pratiti, right? So that is the third level of understanding. The first is that we perceive at the level of senses. Second is that we comprehend with use of logic and reason. And third is where we actually are able to intuit it, that we are able to understand it as it is, right? Without the screen of logic.
Right.
Please go ahead. Mhm.
So, yeah, and then it all comes down to perception, comprehension, and intuition of truth have a language at its root. So we come back a full circle, as we started with language, and then it comes back a full circle that why this is at the root of language is that our ability to perceive, our ability to comprehend and understand truth is again facilitated by a language. Language is what allows us to articulate this understanding, articulate these thoughts. And thus, it all comes a full circle where we first started with how language has value in its root, right? So it again comes down to that. Okay, moving on. The entities of the material order and biological order do not have a brain, while those of the animal order and knowledge order have a brain. The brain is the animate organ of the body located in the head, responsible for receiving and processing signals related to the desires and aspirations of the sentient unit, which is the Jivan. The transmission of Jivan clouds, hope, thought, desire, resoluteness, and authenticity, which is evidence, is received by the brain. Subsequently, the sensory and motor functions take place in the human body, which further manifests into human activities. Okay, so here we're talking about, wait, I'll just again say this. Right, so here we're talking about the brain now. So how the brain is not present in matter in plants, but it is present in animals and in humans. So the brain is actually something that processes informations, signals, and then it translates it into actions and responses, right? So it acts as a control center for all our physical as well as mental activities. So now when he says the transmission of the Jivan clouds, hope, thought, desire, resoluteness, and authenticity is received by the brain, I think it means that uh, the Jivan cloud transmits various signals such as hope or thoughts or desires. This goes to the brain, and then it is the brain who receives these signals, it processes these signals, and then guides the sensory functions in our body, which leads to us actually doing the activities or manifesting these activities or manifesting the thought which actually came to the Jivan cloud in the first place. So a Jivan cloud is basically, did I read that? No. A Jivan
No.
cloud refers to the shape created by the limits of a sentient unit's activity. At its root, there exists only one constitutionally complete atom within which the activities of Man, Vritti, Chit, Buddhi, and Atma take place. So the Jivan cloud is what encompasses the full range of activities that the Jivan has, which is the Man, Vritti, Chit, Buddhi, Atma. And transmission is basically the wave, it refers to the wave generated by the Jivan that carries signals of hope, thought, desire, resoluteness, and authenticity, which is received by the brain or the nervous system, from which Jivan has an inherent anticipation of response. So what this means is that the transmission involves the movement of signals from the Jivan to the brain. That is what we're calling transmissions. And these signals include emotional as well as cognitive messages that the brain can understand and then respond to through our body parts, through our senses. So by understanding the interconnectedness of these things, by understanding how it works, we can understand how language, how values, how essentiality, like we talked about before, they play a role in shaping our understandings, our experiences, and our behavior. And this is what will lead us to becoming more self-aware as we get to know more about us through this. And then of course the more self-aware we are, the more righteous our actions are, and the more in alignment we can become with the existence, with the ultimate truth, and ultimately um, live a fulfilled life. So all expect.
Uh,
Uh,
Kuhu,
yeah.
shall we actually stop here today because
Okay.
we have about 8 minutes. So if there are any Q&A are there, then maybe
Okay.
we
Sure.
can take them today and do the remaining part in the next week,
Cool.
or next Tuesday, that is. Yeah. So here's now inviting any questions that might be there with for Shubha Didi or Kuhu for the session that we had today. We had a rather intense session, a lot of keywords and a lot of definitions. I see that basically it's not a easy read book, as you can see that it requires a fair degree of involvement and uh, investment of time and energy to actually get the uh, idea. The number of concepts are there, number of words are there, which need to be all put together. But somewhere we basically also understand the key idea is quite simple, in which we are talking about uh, coexistence as the basis of all existence. And then on that, we are talking about the nature uh, that is insentient and sentient. And in the sentient, we talk about the human expression and are talking about various distinctions in the human behavior. So part of our study of human behavior is to understand the differentiations or the distinctions or the nuances uh, in various situations. So basically, the darshan gives us the basis of understanding the inherent orderliness that is there in all of existence, and to be able to actually have that reference set in us gives us the basis for us to deal with the world in its present status, right? So here is inviting everyone in case there are any questions or anything that you would like to share. Looks like we are having a stunned audience. This is
Actually, I want to share something if no one has a question. But
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल.
while I was reading this, and we have been for the past couple of days, but I mean, before, like when I first got introduced to Madhyasth Darshan, right? Like the Hindi was so much for me that it took me quite some time to understand the words, understand the actual meaning behind it. And I was really hoping that, if this is translated in English, it would make things so much easier. Like I would be able to relate immediately and,
Let me
would
prepare myself to hear what you are saying.
No, no, I mean, not in a bad way, but I realized that the words are such that even when you translate it to your bestest capacity, it's, it's hard to sort of understand what it's saying without like sort of what do you call it? Like looking into it even more. Like I'm not just reading another novel, like it's not an English novel that I'm reading. I really need to put my brain to it to understand English even. And I think that comes
Okay.
from the fact that the content is such, of course, the words are such. So, yeah, I mean, a lot of the words I heard for the first time, I read for the first time. But I think with time also, because initially this is the thought I had, but then it also occurred to me that when I first read the Hindi text, right, I didn't understand anything. I was not familiar with the words. The vocabulary was completely new to me. But with time, as I read it more, it sort of became better for me. And I think similarly with the English translation, also that would be the case, where the more we
Okay.
familiarize ourselves with the words
Yeah.
and the way it's written, I guess, I think it would definitely be a lot more easier for us to understand.
Yeah, okay. Thanks for
No,
saying
Rakesh,
that.
it's not, I'm not saying it in like a bad way that I
No,
didn't
no, no, I
understand and you're
understand
not
that.
done
But
it.
you see that basically we have a task at hand, and we basically understand that what we are trying to do really is not to simplify darshan, right? That's not what our charter is. We are actually trying to make a bridge, right? So at least so that people can connect with this darshan. Uh, we don't want to be writing a page turner either. That we basically say that okay, now we can have it very quickly, or we can give something which are very uh, a version that is something enjoyable to read, or something that you can read on a weekend and be wise, right? So that's not what we are trying to achieve. What we are trying to do is that there is something fundamental has happened in India, that is this discovery. We want to make it accessible. We want to make it accessible as it is, right? So we don't want to add any frills to it. We don't want to add to this. I know it's a it's a big ask, and we don't know whether we will how much we will succeed in doing that. But I think what you are doing, by you, I mean all the people who are participating in this exercise, you are actually do, doing something very brave and very kind, right? You are being brave in the sense it takes a lot of courage to actually read a text like this, right? And I think being kind is that you are to read from someone who you know has not achieved the exalted state that Babaji has, but still you are actually giving the some sort of uh, bhav to that person, that yes, I will actually take this up and still read that. It is something I would say I hold it at a very high value. Right. So I think it is a part of a process that we are going through, right? It's not the very far finished in a very finished state. It is going to go for many further revisions. It is at a very stage in which this is the best that we can do right now. Yeah. And we are sure that it is going to be better tomorrow. Yeah, it is much worse than what it will be tomorrow, and it is much better than what it was yesterday. Yeah, so that's where we are really. So,
No, of
yeah.
course, but yeah, I mean, what you have done is, of course, beyond like I can't even thank you enough for it. But what I meant was basically a general observation, like the previous book that we did, right?
Mhm.
Jivan Vidya Ek Parichay. The language was such in Hindi as well, right? Like it was a Vyavharik bhashan that Babaji had given. So the
Mhm.
English was, of course, much more colloquial and easier to understand. But this being a darshan, like you said, it's a more serious material. It's a fundamental matter that we're presenting here. So obviously the language will be such that you're doing justice to the text. A personal
Yes.
observation for me, no intention otherwise.
No, I fully understand. Yeah, fully understand. So, any other observations from anyone? Drishta, you wanted to say something? I just saw a blip of your message here.
I was just saying, unless there's some other question, because anyway, this was such a dense section. I thought
Mhm.
if we have to, one point that that I was wondering about was that definition of kshob or perturbance or frustration, which mentioned how, the conversion of our capacities and abilities into effort, the decline in that is frustration, and that is there was a section on receptivity. This itself is the lack of receptivity. And I was wondering how you see that, what that means to you or anyone like Shubha Didi or who.
Okay, Shubha Didi, you want to take that up?
But yeah, I think I have explained, but would like to add something. Uh, how I see Shob in this context is that when I don't understand when I don't receive all the information and I can't see the thing in its totality, then my efforts are also not complete. And I want to achieve something in its towards completeness. Like if I want to learn uh, riding, and if I don't know how to do it, so merely wanting it will not be sufficient if I don't know to the rules and laws. So there is the problem in receptivity, how I see it, and that will lead to frustration that I'm trying hard. I'm feeling that I'm trying hard, but I'm not trying hard actually, because I'm not able to gain the various parts of the bike or the cycle, and then don't know how to pedal and how to make balance. So that is how I see lack of receptivity. If I This is this much I can explain on this way.
Yeah, maybe I could add a little bit on this. So you see that uh, there is one line in Darshan that is called Shram ka kshobh hi vikshram ki trasha hai, right? And that is the effort, the frustration that we basically make out of our efforts, the frustration that we get out of our efforts is actually a thirst for restfulness. What really, what as I understand that it means is that we make the effort for um, achieving anything that we want in our life, like for example, living in the relationships and doing the work that we want to do, but still we meet with not complete result, right? Not the full complete result that would satisfy us. And that is the kshob, that is actually the lack, the deficiency that we have. We don't not of not getting the complete result as expected. So that actually uh, is really our thirst for restfulness, and is also our positively speaking, it is the receptivity for us to actually get something more, to understand something more. So that is the meaning of that uh, uh, definition that we are seeing over there, that frustration is actually not getting the result uh, out of the best of our ability where we are at this point in time. And it is actually signifies the receptivity in us to learn more. Right. So if we look at it, the entire emergence is out of when there is this recognition of this shob that is recognized, then there is a uh, uh, sanyog for actually making a further progress in this emergence. So you want to add something to this, Trishta, whether I was able to
Hmm.
explain?
This makes sense actually. That I think what I'm getting from what both of you are saying is that um, so when we are putting the best of our abilities, and which is always of course in combination with our capacity, into some efforts to achieve something,
Hmm.
and yet we are not receiving the results that we would hope for. If that is the extent of our state, then that is perturbance or show. But
Yes.
if then we look at aggression, then it is when we are putting the best of our abilities into some efforts to achieve something. And in doing that, if we are maybe realizing that we are lacking and so we need to understand something more, then that is the increase in that receptivity. I mean, that is the development of that receptivity, which is aggression, I suppose. I mean, the same thing is happening, but I suppose what we are taking away from it is different. And therefore, in one case, the receptivity is lacking. And in the other case, the receptivity is being, one is the indication of a lack of receptivity, and in the other, the same process is leading to a building of our receptivity. Like it's
Right.
generating with thirst.
Right. So Kshob is basically recognition of receptivity. Aggression is to actually fulfill that receptivity and move ahead. Yeah.
Thank you.
Can I add something here, Bia?
हाँ जी बिल्कुल.
How I see ascending or aggression, only one minute difference is that I see my previous stage and then I understand that I have grown a bit, even a bit. Like I have realized that what I lack, and then I move in the direction of fulfilling that. So then it will be ascending. If I stuck into that point, then it will be show. Is it?
Yes, somewhat. Yes.
Yes, that's also how I'm hearing what you're saying.
Yeah.
Although additionally, since this particular Anubhuti was in reference to material order atoms, I'm a bit curious how this translates to that. Although, of course, that's just a curious kautuhal. What is relevant to me is more the Vyavaharik, which we've covered.
Yeah, but I would basically look at it is that what happens in humans, it would actually be in some form or the other in the material nature also, where though it would not be in as the sentient expressions, but we will be giving it a name. Like for example, when we observe the activity of an atom, uh, we will say that it would be better off if it achieves this next state, right? So this its present state, we are saying it is that of a kshob or frustration. That it is there are two stable states. One state, it's moving from one stable state to the next stable state. So that is between these two stable states, there is a change that is required, right? And for that change, there is a we will actually identify kshob and aggression in there.
Right.
Yeah. So we are a little bit over time today. So once again, thanks to Shubha Didi and Kuhu. And we will meet Kuhu again on the next Tuesday. Thank you so much for all your patience and being with these sessions. And hope to see you again soon. Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you very much, Bhaiya.
Thank you, everyone.
Namaste. Thank you.